the Atheist Mitch here. In one of my classes, I'm taking Speech and Debate 2, and we're doing a debate actually, and I've talked pretty openly about atheism in class, and I've given really good speech, and people seem actually like really open to it. I'm really excited. But the debate topic this week is the United States federal government should levy corporate taxes on religious institutions. And this isn't really a huge debate today, to tell you the truth. But it's something that, like, I wanted to keep it religion-based. And, of course, I'm for taxing churches, and I just wanted to kind of point out that argument. So, firstly, a little definition. By levy, we mean, because it's going to be me and a partner debating, we mean to impose, because currently churches are tax exempt, meaning they do not pay taxes. Churches don't pay taxes because of the idea of separation of church and state, which is a really old idea. It comes from Constantine in Rome in like the year 370, way back. I mean, that was when Rome actually became, it recognized Christianity as its official religion. Like that's just kind of some of the history. Well, I think that this idea of the separation of church and state doesn't apply to taxes, because like that's the whole argument, is that constitutionally the church or the state shouldn't be able to tax churches because it means that they're intertwining and everyone's like, ew, gross. But I think it's stupid. So what I'm going to say may seem counterintuitive, but listen through. In 1967, a church was removed of its tax exemption by the Supreme Court, and when the church argued against it, it was denied multiple times until it ended up taking 25 years, and even then the church was denied. The church was granted its exemption only once it agreed to pay $12.5 million to the IRS and agreed that the federal government could intrude more than in other religions, which is honestly pretty retarded, I gotta say. This church is the Church of Scientology, and for you guys who don't really know, it's a belief system that's viewed as more kind of out there and more kind of crazy. But there's some famous people in it, John Travolta, Tom Hanks. It's really not that big, like a South Park episode about it. It's pretty funny, actually. But the reason I bring up this case is because the federal government, it would be apparent, only wants Christian churches to be tax exempt. And maybe, you can't say, oh, they want the Church of Scientology, then it must be just Christian, but I'll explain more later. Which means basically that they want to benefit their religion, Christianity, and no one else's, which is actually in itself a violation of church and state. When state-led organized, when state electees pick a religion and they act based off that religion, right there is a violation of church and state. So the whole idea of, no, we can't tax churches because the separation of church and state is really a giant contradiction in itself, and really the whole argument should be thrown out. So I have 3 points why churches should be taxed. Because churches are similar to a corporation, and corporations are taxed. Because a tax would benefit our declining economy, and because there's a bias in the federal government that favors predominantly Christian churches. So firstly, a company is, by definition, an organized body of people with a particular purpose. And church is where people attend with a body of people for the purpose of embracing a religion. It goes hand in hand. So churches should be seen or recognized as a company, and guess who has to pay taxes? Companies do. So, what are you doing there? So I would argue that the church tax exemption is based off of complete biased opinion and simply hidden as the separation of church and state. Secondly, 3 presidents, James Madison, James Garfield, and Ulysses S. Grant, have stood in the opposition as I do. Their reasoning being the economic development that can occur because of this tax. President Grant submitted a 900-foot-long, not 900 words, 900 feet, like a paper spread out, a 900-foot-long petition containing 35,000 signatures to Congress in 1875, demanding that churches and other religious property shall be no longer exempt from taxation. Grant argued that a tax would create roughly $83 million in 1875, and that's a long time ago. So if you look at like inflation rates and that different stuff, $83 million in currency today is about $1.7 billion. Okay, so the economic of just a tax, you know, of like a corporate tax or I used company earlier, just a tax would create roughly $1.7 billion if Grant argued the right number. It's a statistic, you can argue my statistics kind of skewed, I get it, but that's not the point. The point is that the economic development is huge. And churches just, there's, if you, I'm messing this all up. Churches are for the public. You could argue churches are like a moral thing that help out the public. And what better way to help the public than to give money to your government? I mean, like people, like we were reading Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Walden, pretty well-known author. He argued that government should not exist, really. He said that we should have a government that is so good that it ceases to exist, which is really, really weird. And he wrote it in, you can look up civil disobedience. He wrote it while he's in jail because he didn't pay taxes. Just a night. Well, we need government. I mean, I don't understand. Like, the idea of not needing government is so prehistoric to modern society that it really is just, like, that just shows that your brain is at a prehistoric level. We need government, we need taxes, and the church would be like, yeah, let's pay taxes, let's help out our government, And thirdly, as I said earlier, the Church of Scientology was denied its tax exemption, which really, to me, as I kind of said, does show a really big bias, where we live in a society that is predominantly Christian, and they're like, just Christian churches should be tax exempt. It's wrong. As a government leader, you should be helping the public, not helping your private needs. And for that, I would argue that you should have taxes, and that the United States federal government should levy corporate taxes on religious institutions. Thanks.